here. So in this video I'm going to show you a fast picking lick in E minor, but I'm not going to just leave you with the lick itself. I'm also going to show you how to practice this lick, and that's the important part, because this practice technique you can apply to pretty much anything else that you're working on. But this technique works especially well on things that are hard to loop. So basically any type of longer line that kind of doesn't make sense to make a looping exercise out of. So first of all, here's the lick in question. Now, as usual, you have the tabs available on my Patreon, but I'm going to play it once slowly, but I'm not going to go into detail here because, like I said, you have the tabs available. And it's not that difficult once you see the pattern. So we're just in good old E Aeolian here. So start here on C, on the high E string, 8th fret. All right, so here's the lick semi-slowly. And obviously you don't need to add that at the end, that's just what I did. So it's all alternate picked except for the last bit here, which is just an E minor arpeggio in 2 octaves. So it's all alternate picked, scalar stuff, except for the last thing here, the ending, which also slows down. So the first bit is 16 note triplets, 6 notes per beat, and then we have 16th notes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. With this kind of lick, it's hard to loop the whole thing because it's quite a long lick. Of course, you could loop the first part, which is fine, but I find for these longer licks, especially when they change up a bit, so we have the same sequence that far, but then we change the sequence to just descending sixes, just to get some sort of you know, a bit more intensity towards the end, because this first bit feels like it's kind of a long scalar line, but then when you shorten that with, it sort of builds up the tension a little bit. All right, so what you want to do then when you can't loop it is to use accents, like I mentioned in the beginning. An accent just means that you go through the thing and you accent each note of the subdivision in turn. So if I accent the first note, which will be the most logical first step, I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to accent it harder than you should do when you practice. So that's important. This is just for demonstrations. You can actually see what I'm doing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Right, so go that far for this one. And once you've done that, you want to do the same thing with the second note, and that will be way harder. So it's totally fine to slow the tempo down here, but make sure that when you have your foot tapping when you do this, which I absolutely think you should, and especially for this one, since it's 6 notes per beat, it's quite quick. Even at 50 BPMs or 60 BPMs, it can be quite hard to accent a certain part of the subdivision. So you want to make sure that you can just play this with your foot tapping, and then you don't really need a metronome initially. So you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm basically just putting my foot down manually on the 1 here. And you want to keep doing that whether you hit the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th. You always want to make sure that your foot is always down on 1. So you don't want to change it, so you go like that, right? And when I say put the foot down manually, what I mean is that when you just sit around at a medium tempo like this, or you know, medium slow, you kind of, the foot gets this thing going by itself. It has some momentum to it. But whereas if you go like super slow like we did now, it's kind of hard to feel that same sort of glue to each beat. So you kind of have to put it down by sheer force of your will. But it's very important to do that, because when you do that, your brain will really realize that this is a group of 6. So you really have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So even at that slow tempo, your brain still gets the same idea as when you speed it up. So that's super important. So if you do the same thing with the second note, then now it's going to be all upstrokes instead. And like I mentioned in the beginning here, I don't want you to accent as hard as I do it here, because you don't want to accent so hard that you change your technique in any way. So it's more of a mental accent. And what I mean by that is that when you hit the second note, for example, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you want to really, in your mind's eye, see how this finger for this group of 6, for example, really connects extra with this upstroke. So that we're really training our brain here. So it's not about training our fingers, we're training our brain to control the fingers. So that's the distinction here. All right, so let's do the second note now. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you do the third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as you can see, my foot is on 1 the whole time. And also, don't worry if your tempo is a bit wobbly at first. It doesn't really matter in this case. You just want to make sure that you have the subdivision within each. You know, you make sure that you get the group of 6 notes in between each foot stomp, and your foot is always on 1. Whether or not you would record yourself and you would see your BPMs going from like 35 BPMs, 37, 38, or, you know, back and forth a little bit, doesn't really matter that much. That's what the metronome are for, and you will get into that later when you feel more comfortable with this. So again, this is all about getting the actual subdivision, meaning however many notes you put in each beat. So hopefully that's clear. So I'm going to do the fourth note now, and when I'm actually doing this, I'm really thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I generally start counting here so you can hear what I'm doing, but if I do this by myself, I might count or I might not, but I always really try to get that connection on whatever note I'm accenting, so I can really see that connect in my mind's eye. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this takes way more concentration. You're sitting there just playing notes any old way, right? And also by accenting the notes like this, you might find that if you're really used to only smashing the 1, for example, that there might be some glitches or flams in some of the other notes that you haven't really noticed when you've just been practicing these ascending and descending 6s before, if you've done that. So it's very important to go through this, because you can clean a lot of things up when you practice this way. All right, so the fifth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the sixth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And then once you've done 6 reps like we've done here, try it fast once and see how it feels. Right? And you know, whether or not that worked doesn't really matter. Just if you feel like, well, you know, that could have been better, go another round of 6. The point is that when you do it this way, time will pass much quicker because you have something to focus on. Plus, you get all the benefits we already talked about, that you get this, I call this a spotlight effect, because whatever note you're actually accenting will be sort of in the spotlight, so you will hear it much better. And not only because you play it slightly harder, but also because you're actually focusing on that note in particular. So if you haven't tried this practice technique before, give it a try and apply it to this thing first, and then apply it to something you have trouble with already, because I think that's where you can really see how things help you out. So give it a try and then let me know in the comments how it worked out for you. Back in the in the day, I used to have real issues with fast alternate picking when it came to 2 notes per string. I was fine with 3 notes per string, but the 2 notes per string thing was a bit harder to crack. So if you struggle with fast alternate picking as well, and you don't know what to practice or for how long, I've created the perfect solution for you in the form of the Pentatonic Picking Power Book. So in this book, you'll find a daily workout that will not only help your pentatonic picking, but will also upgrade your overall alternate picking technique. So it contains basically the same exercises I use myself to develop my picking abilities, as well as numerous students over the years that I've given the same exercise to with great results. So I know these exercises work as long as you put in the work. So it's not a quick solution or quick fix. It will still take a lot of work, but at least you have a very easy to follow routine. So if you're up for a big alternate picking upgrade in 2024, I cannot think of a better start. It's $9 and I think it's very underpriced, but I did it that way just so as many people as possible could be helped by this. So check that out.